Okay, going to be doing some quick reviews on some hero changes and new heroes at the same time since I've been gone. All right, so first I want to go over Cion and Belle. Now, Belle is actually absolutely fantastic, and I already thought that she was before. She's definitely the best healer in the game. Her heals are just better. She can remove buffs from targets with her basic skill, which is cool. I and I'm sure this does go up to 100%. Yeah, 100% chance at max level. Her second skill is a heal, which is basically I would compare this to Moss's second skill. It's not as good range, obviously, but I would put it as comparable in terms of how good it is, because this also can remove debuffs at the same time, so it's kind of better, I think. Also, the I like this added effect here. If the target's HP is below 25%, skill effect increase. Um, and again, I haven't maxed out, so I don't know what her full amounts are, but they're like her skills are all good. They're all very good. This heal rate here is really overpowered. Uh, it's like bigger version Kai super heal everything in the area. I do not believe that it heals herself. I think that she is exempt from the healing of this skill, but still, it's pretty damn awesome. Is she? Yeah, she's allowed to heal herself with this skill, so that's fine. And considering the range, I like there's literally only the four corners that she wouldn't heal herself in if she casted it. But this, which is really good for autoplay, um, this skill here is pretty huge. I'd like to think. Now this one does heal a little bit more, I think, unless let's see the increases the max HP. If it increases in max HP, it also adds that amount. Targets by yeah, all right, yeah. Man, the way I don't know why they have it worded like this. It's like face off your attack and the allies attack. You know what? I just know that this thing heals a crap ton because people were using it in Battle of Honor. But I don't know why they have it worded like this in separate pieces. Heals and recovers. Um, and at this skill right here, no terrain, anything that whatever negative side effects. It's also really sweet. Like she's basically the perfect support healer. Like all of her skills are kind of universally good all the time. A lot of excuse me, a lot of times this remove buff effect is actually pretty sweet. Um, good example would be if you wanted to use the hero on Tower of Dawn on the level with the slime, the two slimes that have the effect that they get crazy stats if they have a bunch of debuffs on them, and you don't have a lot of heroes leveled up that have no debuffs, then what you can do is you can have like character, character with debuff, Bell, another character, split them up and things like that, so you can kind of work one in, but they don't actually affect one another. So things like that are really cool to do. There's tons of times where it's going to be great. But Belle does not suffer terrain-related damage. Whenever she uses a skill, her max MP increases by 2 until it reaches the maximum of 80. Now that MP increase at level 1 doesn't seem like much, but I think it does get up to quite a decent-ish amount, which is really good in a couple small minor ways, but still really good. Uh, Thinking about the Klein map, for example, basically anytime she's using her basic skill, she's gaining more into her MP pool. Like it's just good to have a lot of MP. I don't think it's going to be super like it's mostly kind of just she can't really get herself killed by putting herself in stupid places. Um, like having terrain advantage plus damage over time effects if you're not built into defending against damage over time and things like that. Or like sometimes you just start the turn on, like I'm talking strictly from an auto point of view. Sometimes you just might get yourself killed in a stupid way. Like this is kind of like an anti-stupid mechanic. I think it's a lot better than it looks. Um, but generally her first, well, her second, third skill especially are outrageously good. Her stats are fantastic. They did change her stats compared to what they originally were. Her mastery is high enough that you don't actually need to build her with any necklace or anything like that. Um, 3 movement, perfectly fine to be completely honest. A lot of really awesome heroes have 3 movement. You can make all 3 movement hero teams and have it perfectly balanced. You can just go Klein, Bell, uh, Lee, Lena, and I don't want to say Angela because I don't want to get the whole team killed by Angela. But there's enough. Maybe throw 1/4 movement in there. Let's throw Muzaka in there or Yekaterina. All that overpoweredness. And you'd have a really strong team, so the 3 movement really isn't that big of an issue. It's kind of a non-issue here. There's always movement sets and things like that to compensate for that. Her attack is very high for a healer, almost 7k, good HP, outrageous defense. 2700 defense is awesome. So she's kind of like a mid tank healer. Now her crit rate is kind of it's only average, but it's good to have it at so like looking at Klein for example. Klein's is only like 500. It's under 500. It's like 4 something. So like this is pretty sweet to have as a base amount because crit heals are awesome. So I don't think people are going to be building their healers for crit as much as they're going to be going for defense. But that just makes the extra 2 to 3% over any other characters with the lower crit bases. Uh, it kind of is a nice little bit of a boost. But she's got the SS cooperation, which is kind of a stupid thing. Like it's cool in the sense that she basically only attacks with her basic attack anyway. So having SS cooperation kind of helps maximize the little bit of damage that she can do, but it, still, this is kind of a useless stat. But she's generally like I've got lots of good things to say about Belle. I think she's but even before the changes, I thought that she was going to be the best healer in the game, and it's just cool that she still is. I have not raised her because of laziness reasons. Cion. Now, Cion, I'm the exact opposite opinion on. Cion seems like a weaker version of Lee that is sustained in mana. By weaker version of Lee, I mean she's got more damage over, like she's more of a PvE kind of like version of Lee. So this is just basic attack. This is damage over time. It's got all these crazy little effects to it. It's also got 4 range in all directions. Um, but just in all the directions. It's straight. It's not like a, well, you can see it's not a box. It's literally just the directions. This is a 5 range skill. Um, it's only in the cross shape, which is not as awesome as Lee's range, obviously. But it is again damage over time, huge range, and the thing that kind of makes her really nice is this mana thing. So when she is able to snipe enemies, she recovers her mana by a huge amount. So she can basically go around spamming her third skill, which is nice. Um, if she does get caught, she'll have to use one of these. But having a 5 range skill, like now she doesn't have any regen like Nox, but I think Nox is the only other hero with a 5 range basic attack. I'll have to check later. But she's basically got this great sustained mana thing, so it's really cool for auto battles to be able to, if she is able to keep consistently getting kills on auto, that she would basically always be able to keep maintaining this. So she's a little bit more practical for PvE than Lee, but for obvious reasons in PvP, she doesn't have things like armor ignore. She doesn't have any great other cool things that add to huge modifiers. Her base attack is high, so if you want a higher number, excuse me, she'll definitely be able to do that. She's got slightly higher mastery than Lee, another really, really high mastery character. stuck the same amount of movement. The crit rate difference between her and Lee is very negligible. She does have the higher attack, like I said, but again, just attacking 400 to 500. Yeah, 400 attack here. So she's very much a lot the same like Lee. It's just she seems more focused towards just playing on auto on regular maps and things like that. I don't think she's going to see very much competitive play in Battle of Honor. She's more of a PvE hero, and these skills are dead giveaways. Damage over time effects are generally guaranteed damage in PvE, and having lots of mana is always one of the best assets to have in PvE. But it's not really so much for PvP where things are generally 2 turns, 3 turns, the game's over. So that's just what I think. I'm sure somebody will come up with some kind of weird build, prove me wrong maybe one day, but currently that's what I'm sticking at. Let's go over to Soraka number 2 over here, most outrageous character of all time. This is just messed up. It's just not right. It's completely wrong. He's the attack type hero with more defense than like half the defensive type characters in the game. He's got a fast growth rate because, of course, Nexon wants you to have this whopping 11,000 attack, 3,200 defense hero as fast to 5 stars as you can. But like HP, attack, defense, top tier, top tier, top tier. His mana, absolute trash. His dodge and crit rate are average, but crit rate, like dodge, is kind of stupid. So crit rate is the only nice one there. Mastery, it looks like they want you to make him have even more attack by putting 2 necklaces on him. And 4 movement. 4 movement's kind of like the golden safe zone. He doesn't even really have 4 movement because this stupid skill gives him movement all the time. The beginning of his odd number turn. Oh, sorry, increase movement at the beginning of his odd number turn. So, and on the 10th turn, which is kind of weird. Like, well, I don't know if it's level 10. Is level 10 turn 10 or is it turn 20? Go up by another 2 movement. Anyway, it goes forever, so it's stupid. Uh, unless it goes 1 and then turns off and turns off. I really haven't played a ton with them, just because I don't think I'm going to be using them. I was actually very underwhelmed with how somebody with such insane stats could be so easy to beat and ineffectual in battle at all. His skills are not weak, but they're not particularly good. Let's look at this. All right, so attack. Increases crits attack by 10% for 1 turn. So use this, get a 10% buff to next turn. Not the greatest incentive for how much weaker it is than his first and third skills, but it does restore his health, so that's kind of nice. Is it fight all just flat 30% every single time? Okay, I thought it might be by enemies hit, but it's just flat 30% every single time. So that 30% health restore, how good is that? Well, problem, he's an attack type hero, and even though his HP pool is extremely high, there are very few sets that actually can really grant him the power he needs. What I honestly think that Crut has been designed for is to take advantage of the Pathfinder buffs, the Earth Defender set, as well as the new 5-star set over here. Oh, wrong one. Oh man, what? I am so bad at this. Reading, totally got that down. But this 5-star set over here. Ta-da! Bow, Wouldn't you know it, necklace and chest piece, the greatest set of all time. 18% attack and 21,000 HP. So if you can get this on Crut and get him a Pathfinder, his HP problems are going to be gone. Because the biggest problem that Crud is going to have is that even with his crazy base stats, without awesome sets, you're not going to be able to kind of survive really anything. And he will need both this set and the Pathfinder to survive for sure, or the Earth Defender. The Earth Defender might be a little bit better than the Pathfinder on him, depending on what you're going for. I'd probably still choose the Pathfinder to keep the extra movement. So even if I do get like a movement reduction effect on me of some kind or whatever, I could probably still maintain my immobilize effect on my third skill. But let's talk more about this set. This is kind of like I think somebody got this from Todd, like first the day of the reset. It's pretty awesome. Um, Somebody posted on Reddit that their Smurf got it, and a lot of people thought that it was my Smurf that got it, and it was not me posting that. I want to clarify that right now. But this set is pretty damn awesome. Just because it combines the two things that everybody wants: lots of health and lots of attack, because they are the most universally useful things to have in the game. But if you can get this and combine it with a Pathfinder or an Earth Defender on Crut, depending on what you're going for, Pathfinder, remember, stays on all the time. The Earth Defender is only if you have two or more allies alive. But will give him enough sustain to be able to take attacks even at top levels, which obviously we're talking about top levels here. Without those sets, he's, regardless of level, just way too easy to actually kill. There's really not anything better right now. Now, the way that Nexon likes to do things as a company, they like to say, give a huge buff to the Omni set to make people spend a bunch of money on the Omni set, and then release a set like this that is basically a way better version of the Omni set that's a lot more practical. First off, it's got a 5-star necklace, which is 100 times better than a 5-star brooch, especially for uh, most of the characters that you would imagine you would be wanting the Omni set on would be so much better served without the brooch, but would be better served with the necklace. Um, Plus, it's chest piece and bow. Like this is a way better set. Now, curing yourself with 2 debuffs is a pretty sweet effect, and there's going to be times where it's completely invaluable. There's going to be very unique, awesome times. But what is always universally good is having 20,000 health, and 18% is better than 50%. I don't know why they had to, for 2 sets that are both SS. You know what they should do? They should actually just remove the 18 and 50%, make them both 25% to actually make it look like they're not deliberately trying to one up their own other set that's also SS for 5-star. Because I think that the Omni set deserves it. They both do, because 15% and 18% buffs compared to some of the other ones from other star levels are pretty laughable. Now, I also think that that is going to be kind of the go-to set for about 2 months, and then I think they're probably going to release the God of Massacre set after that to flip things over again. Because like what Nexon likes to do is kind of release things in a way that gives people the most incentive to spend money, because Nexon is just like kind of a really shitty company that way. They're not hard to predict. The way that they do things either is it's complete bullshit. So this set obviously would make literally the Omni set way better than the Angel Knight set now. Because what heroes need the Angel Knight set? Characters that need sustain, but it's also the best attack type hero set if you're not paper type currently. So it's kind of like this set's in a weird place. Before that, it was the Omni set. Nobody really wanted the Omni set, so they buffed the Omni set to make people want it. And they continued to not release the God of Massacre set, which is like, oh man, they could, if they release this set, then they could buff the Slime King set, and it still wouldn't matter. I'm dreaming of the day where I have a 50,000 attack Lee before the Beast Rain and Dathomir battle suits go on. But that's just my take on it. Like the thing is with Crut's release and the current power and the extreme use of paper heroes right now, um, people finally really realizing just how strong the paper heroes are. Crut is the wrong type attack and the wrong type rock for what is currently super popular in play. So unless you have the Angelite set and an Earth Defender or a Pathfinder, and you have to have both, or he's just not going to have the survivability at the top ranks. Um, Not that you have to have him, but he seems more um, designed towards PvE um, than the current meta in PvP right now. He's not a weak hero by any means. Obviously, look at these retarded ass stats, but he's generally coming out at the time to stimulate the purchase of the Angel set, in my opinion, which is just not happening for me. So I probably won't even use him at all. I think I'm gonna max him out at 70 just because, but he is not. He's very out of place right now. They released this retarded ass hero. Like I just I don't understand what the rationale was, but for putting his HP, attack, and defense up. It's like, well, we want a melee attack hero, but we don't want him to be a joke like Jin, because Jin has 4 movement too. but Krut, Krut gets to on the ever important first turn. I believe this activates and gives him his 1 movement at the beginning of his odd number turn. So when his turn starts, he actually has 5 movement. So like Jin's biggest problem in PvE has now just been solved without having any set gear. So it's universally good for everybody. Anyway, that's just what I think. I think that Krut is kind of a hey, you know it would be awesome? Teasing everybody with this retarded stat melee hero. But make him just quite not strong enough to be able to survive in the current top levels of play. And then people will buy this set to try to make him way better. The thing is, even with both those sets, it's probably still very possible for Jenny to one shot him if she continues to stay bugged. Um, but yeah, like again, his skills are not as amazing as his stats. Not that they're bad. Like this is an awesome skill. The incoming damage is amazing. Now, like what you need to keep in mind with this though is if you're playing on the square map, for example, if you put Crut in your first slot, which you would want him to go early on to be able to activate this right away, um, if they go Jenny slot 1, they might just kill Crud on turn 1 because I believe your turn has to start. It says at the beginning of his odd number turn, so you have to actually get him into the point where you're controlling him before this turns on. It is not automatic, so you do not start with a 34.5% reduction. But what's really cool about that skill is the buff from type advantage for paper over rock is a 33% buff. So this is a 34.5% debuff, which is pretty sweet. I'm not sure, just based off how the modifiers will calculate, if it's actually going to work out to be um, less damage than it would normally be from for example, another rock hero on an even number turn. But it's definitely awesome. And it, this is also crazy. Increase Crit's attack by 34.5% and crit damage by 20% at the beginning of his even number turn. So, I really like Crut's big challenge in PvP is going to be, okay, can I get to turn 1 without being attacked? Because I need to survive turn 2 to turn my own overpowered ass on. So that's going to be like his thing. Like this would be so much more powerful, like absurdly more powerful. I think the way that they've done this deliberately, I bet when they were designing the character, it wasn't at the beginning. It was just turn 1 at the beginning of turn 1 instead of the beginning of his turn. It would be at the beginning of odd number turns. It was like this. I think that's probably how they originally designed him and realized, That is way too broken, and nobody will buy our sets with this. So we should make it at the start of his turn, start off so he starts off with nothing. Because it was at the beginning of turn one he had this. Then on his it would be like he starts out with it. Let's move everything back. So he starts out with it. Uh, then his second turn he's got the crazy attack. So you start off with your Beast Rain, Dathomir, or whatever you're equipped with. Generally, if you're using an attack here, it's going to be built like that. You go in, get your sweet kill. You don't need this buff to get your sweet kill. Next turn, you can go over to take out kind of a tankier character because you're getting this huge extra amount of attack on top of another 20% crit damage at the same time. So you can kind of bounce targets, and his outrageous movement is going to be really nice on top of that. He's definitely, just because his stats are outrageous, like even ignoring his stupid ass skills, but even just ignoring these, um, oh yeah, another thing I want to say, the 30% max HP heal, super important. Again, if you're using sets that give you giant amounts of HP, so just making the skills better. Forget what I was saying. Anyway, it's not important. This is a stupid hero. I'm not going to use him for, well, I guess until he's level 70, which I'm not going to be resetting rock coups to do, so it'll be a long time before I use them. I'm going to have to get really bored of everything else, and I'm going to have to actually believe that paper and scissor heroes are not better. The thing is, paper is so played right now that I don't have that angel set. I'm not going to build Crut. Maybe if I was going slot 1 gold tiger Crut, it would be kind of nice, but then I would still have, like, so to try and fight the sweeper Jenny Klein on the bridge right now, but then I would have to fight two retardedly strong paper heroes with my rock hero, and I just don't think he's up to it even with a gold tiger on. Anyway, is there anything else to talk about? I guess I could do a review of Klein, because he's, I guess, the newest hero, another one in the same class as Cion and Bell, with the recent expansion. The hell are you not here for? I don't know why your picture has been on this list for so long, and you haven't come out. It's driving me crazy. Not that I think you're ever going to be good. They're probably just going to do complete rework on her skills because she's bad the way she is, just like the other ones were really bad. Well, Belle was never bad, but Cion was absolutely terrible before. So let's look at Klein. Klein, greatest monster of all time. I don't know. I'm looking at the sets. Oh, I don't have this done yet. Whatever. I think this is kind of stupid that it does damage to himself, but at the same time, you really need that to activate Berserk, and so long as you're not autoing, you can control it. So it's cool enough. Like generally, you're going to be using his third and first, so you would only deliberately use a second. I think so. It's not too bad that it does damage to itself. Plus, it's a sweet hitbox, so sometimes it's just better to attack the area around you than the area in front of you. Uh, removes buffs. I don't know how many times I've said any first skill that removes buffs is pretty sweet. So that's always awesome to have. The Jenny skill. Now they used to have sweet conditions on this, like it would do a ton more damage if they were under movement debuffs and things like that, which you didn't necessarily have to combine with his second skill. You could, like, characters like Lena are so prevalent that you could have just had Lena go first, and then Klein would come in and just do a crap ton of damage. Like the PvE combinations were awesome before, but a 55% chance to confuse is awesome. Not because it's a 55% chance. That's just a slightly better chance at a coin flip. You're flipping a slightly bent nickel or whatever. But the area is so huge that from a PvE point of view, that's completely outrageous. Now, Klein's stats, of course, through the roof. He's got one of the best combined stat totals in the game. He was what overpowered looked like before they designed Krut's stats. Because everything seems to be in the right place. The only thing that's a little bit on the low side is his crit rate, which is kind of a non-issue for somebody uh, so insane like Klein. What's my crit rate sitting at right now? 63%. And one, two. All right, so I could get two more. Well, this is the hard part. You get two pink defense potentials, and you're confused in your charm immune slots. What do you do? What do you do? Do I want to re-roll those? Probably not. I'll roll this all day. But just to speed it up, I guess. I never do the 10 times roll, but because I love you, I'll waste my money by wasting your time anyway. Come on, give me a pink one. Alright, well, next one, no love me today. Pink crit rate, pink crit rate, pink crit rate. And white, nothing. Alright, cool. Now, Klein's passive, every time his HP drops by 10%. Now, this theoretically would, getting him down to 10% health, or just under 10% health, because it has to drop by the full 10%. He's got more crit damage than Jenny under the same gear. He's already got way higher health, which gives him an extra huge advantage to attack by HP. He's got way higher defense. He's got basically everything else is the same. He's just a and the huge like 3,000 attack. He's just a really strong version of Jenny. Now Jenny is, like I said, I've done some testing with the damage, and even when Klein should be crushing Jenny's damage under literally the same conditions in terms of crit damage. Actually, like I beat my Klein down with his second skill and my Angela, and geared up my Klein and my Jenny with just regular stuff. And Jenny was consistently out damaging Klein, even though Klein's attack was way higher, his crit damage was way higher, everything on Klein was way higher, but Jenny was still doing more damage. I don't know why that is. I just assume that there is some kind of bug or glitch with her skills, something that a lot of people have talked about for a long time, and I reported it, and the admins to get back to my post. So hopefully they figure it out and fix her. Um, uh, but so far, right now, Jenny is the damage queen right now. But her defense relies almost 100% on the arrogant pureblood set. Though we do have bridge this week, so that's a non-issue for a slot 1 character. Klein is just basically a giant badass. What I really like is the way, like sometimes I just really like a hero's design very well, and I think this is an awesome design. The thing is, Confuse from this far away is basically Charm, and I think the least invested in potential is Confuse, and it's slowly become the most mainstream status effect. Like heroes like Cleo are kind of dropping off because the other paper options, like Cleo's amazing. It's just the other paper options are so strong, and now paper is kind of becoming the old rock, or even still the current rock, depending on how you're playing. Like I know my Smurfs Arc team is a lot of rock, because rock is the easiest characters to get and build, especially if you consider how awesome their stats are. Scissors is probably one of the weaker ones at the moment, but they are a lot stronger than rock because the prevalence of paper being number one. So rock is definitely the best type, but paper has the best heroes, and paper just dominates rock so much. The thing that the rock type doesn't have is, with the exception of Muzaka, and the problem with Muzaka is he's melee. With the exception of Muzaka, they do not have an absurdly defensive damage dealing hero that's not melee. Um, they don't have a hero that's basically excels at everything. They have like Serendi and Yekaterina are two of the best utility heroes in the game for sure. Muzaka and just because it rhymes, we're going to stick with Soraka too. Muzaka and Soraka too have some of the most outrageous stats for for specific types of characters. Like stat wise, the best defensive type character definitely Muzaka, and with his skills, like he's got such amazing self sustain. There's a lot of levels you just cannot lose because Muzaka gets into a position where he heals more than he gets done to him, and you just if you have Muzaka, you can't lose that map. There's so many maps like that. Um, and crit stats are just so BS. But paper just has this sweet spot where there's so many heroes with these retardedly outrageous stats, and their skills aren't even kind of balanced in a way to offset how amazing they are. Instead, they're absolutely fantastic. Um, but it's really hard to work Cleo into a team. Rock just cannot compete with how strong the current paper heroes are, especially with all the sweet buffs that paper has had in the most recent. Like paper has kind of been the focus for Nexon's buffs for a fairly long time now. Since the Klein set was introduced, I think that it's been more focused towards paper heroes. Um, Jenny it was has always been the clear winner of the Klein set. Originally, I went with Deb just because she was the only one I had 5-star and 70. But I did start raising Jenny up as soon as the Klein set came out, and I eventually used her for a little bit. And it was fun for a bit, but she's just not my style. Klein being really cool, Jenny being kind of. I just don't like Jenny's character. This is what it is. And the fact that she's broken is not bringing me towards her at all. But I've been wanting Klein for so long, so he's staying on the team. Plus, he is the way that he's supposed to be, and he's working properly. So I know that I can rely on consistent results with him and not have him fixed or nerfed into the ground. Like Jenny's probably going to experience the we'll call it the Kai effect because he is the only other character so broken in terms of how his mechanics were working that as soon as they fixed the actual problem, he just dropped completely out of play. But I think that Jenny's going to go through the same thing in the near future. Anyway, Paper's got this death grip uh, on top of Rock right now, and Paper got all the sweet advantages. Noblesse, like after Klein came out, would come into the Noblesse event, and again they've got this stupid ass. And I can't believe this should have been the SS rated set. The difference between you and me should have been this set. Just swap these effects with the difference between you and me, but just make sure that I still have this, have it. But change this to SS and the difference between you and me to the S set because they definitely need to swap. Because this is the set that deserves the SS ranking. 1100 crit rate and 3200 attack. Now, if we're going to compare that to the God of Massacre set, it doesn't look like it needs an SS rating. But for paper type only. So paper type is a lot more encompassing than attack type only. So I think the restriction's a lot lighter. Which the thing is, balanced heroes, well, with the exception of now we have the Klein set and area type heroes. But before the Klein set came out, balanced type heroes were the predominantly used type. They had the best overall uses, stats, versatility, and utility. Balanced type heroes are the best. Uh, like Serendi and Lena, again, two of the best utility type heroes in the game. Surprise balance, surprise balance. Again, I'm using the word balanced here just because it's third type. I do not think there's anything balanced about most of the balanced type heroes. Mu, another balanced type hero who is absolutely fantastic. Like most balanced type heroes generally have the most uses and can do enough, not more, but enough of the thing that the focus types can do. Like your Lena can do more damage than your Lee in certain circumstances, for example, with her percent damage, or she can do as much. She could do actually. She's got better utility. Like Serendi's got better utility than most of the healers, for example. Anyway, that's a story for a different time. When Chenny was the queen of damage, surprise, balance type. When Kai was broken, surprise balance type again. So like that used to be the thing. So for balance type heroes to be able to equip something like this set, even though they already have kind of a big advantage in terms of their utility and overall stats and damage, being in nice places compared to more focused classes, I think is a pretty big deal. Um, so Rock has got basically all of. If you took all the heroes and looked at every single hero and just compared them individually, they didn't look at their typing. And typing was not an issue in the game. Let's say there was a mode that Nexon released where there was no rock paper scissors advantage, and it was just based off the heroes. Rock would be like living the dream. Like Rock has like the sweetest heroes. Let's just look. Uh, let's see. Well, I guess we'd have to ignore heroes that have effects like do extra damage to scissor type or paper type, things like that, because there would be no types in this mode. But Rage is still a really strong hero. Persona, like they made Nirvana to make Persona useful, though Persona does have some other gimmicks that he can do and is occasionally useful. He's one of the most unique, and he's definitely the coolest specialist hero. If you saw my last tier list, I kind of came up with just a group of heroes I consider specialists because they're really only good at very specific. Nexon makes things for them to be good at maps. Um, but Persona is probably the coolest of all the specialist heroes. Um, Lilith's got the only reach and pull. Kitty was the original best area damage hero in the game. She was the only hero that had this hitbox originally. Uh, and Kitty's actually a lot stronger now. She's got some sweet buffs too. Henry's got some sweet buffs, but I think he's a stupid hero. Dominique, highest attack, highest dodge. Best, well, not highest attack, but look at this retarded skill goes up to what 260% damage, something like that. Plus like 5,000 armor ignore now. Completely ridiculous. Of all of the starting heroes, the basic starting heroes that you can level up with unknown genes, Alfred is probably the best. Now, just because he's an area type here and you can give him a Klein set, that should kind of go without saying. But his fourth skill is actually pretty damn good. I wouldn't be surprised if they even buffed it later and gave it one extra range in all directions just to try and bring some of the basic heroes back up in a kind of a revamp in maybe 3 or 4 months. But he's probably the best of the heroes. He's got charm. He's got basically immobilize, reducing movement by 4, and it's for 2 turns, so that's significant. But reducing it by 4 is basically immobilize in most cases. Of course, we got retarded Crut. Jillen's got the best disarm skill in the game, and seeing as how we have so few disarm skills in the game, well, if we want to be really picky, one of the other ones is Anya Katrina, another rock hero, who's another joke. But to all the praises of Momo, Momo is the worst rock hero in the entire game. Momo is the hero they made to balance out rock heroes. He sucks. Um, but Jillen, best disarm in the game, also a pretty good healer, and his basic skill just has like a nice hitbox. It's pretty good. It does heal him too. It's a self heal, so that's pretty sweet. What does his passive do now? Yeah, whatever. Not a bad passive. It's good, but still whatever. But Jillen is one of the characters I just scratch my head when I think about why I haven't raised him yet. It's just hard to justify taking certain heroes out for other heroes, and you just kind of want to raise them up for the collection. Serendi has been one of the most useful and amazing heroes since the beginning of the game, and she's kind of getting phased out a little bit. I think most people are just bored of her. Charm Immune was like the most sought after immunity. It might even still be, and it's 100% because of this stupid Dryad, which some people like to joke. Somehow in this game, a Dryad is more charming than a succubus. These this this skill should have been swapped with Cleo's third skill. Maybe not the hitbox, but at least the effect. Um, but Serendi has got such an awesome kit, and she's there's no team that wouldn't benefit from having her. Like when you are making a team without Serenity, you're basically saying don't need those benefits because I'm trying to make up with it with more benefits somewhere else or something that fits better into my formation, or I just don't want to use you anymore, Serenity. But Serenity is such a fantastic hero. Yekaterina and Muzaka do not need any explanations, and Jack, of course, like Rock has probably the most versatile, best collection of really overpowered heroes. But the problem with that is the few paper heroes that stand on top of them are, well, they can't really make a bunch of really overpowered rock heroes and not have the natural type over them paper completely crush them. They just can't. It wouldn't make any sense. But if you look at the paper heroes, Moa, a lot of people really like Moa, and even with his revamp, I still think he's. I'm not saying he's not terrible. It's just that he's not good. He's just not like good. The bar of what good it is set by the current heroes in the game, and by comparison, Moa is still pretty underwhelming. Uh, Dolores is not going to be talked about. Lancer Alex just needs some higher modifiers. Stun immunity is the most common immunity, I think. So he's not super viable in PvP, but he's fantastic PvE. Um, Sierra is the pay to win hero that nobody really cares about, even though she's not even as strong as Angela and other characters. Her attack typing is actually working against her now with the Slime King set. I don't really like Sierra, but I did max her by accident. Nox, I've always thought that Nox was kind of crappy. Um, Not bad, it's just for what you would think he would be for. If they changed his type to balance, it would make more sense, and it would be a nice buff for him. But as an attack type, he's always seemed to be bad to me. I think they should buff his defense a little bit and change him to a balanced type instead. Like give him up to 2500 defense and lower his attack to maybe 7200 or 7400. Just do a straight number for number swap, make him a little bit more defensive, better for the counter build, and keep his crit rate the same for the fun reason of having high crit rate. He definitely needs more health too, but uh, without the counter build, I think the counter build is the only thing that he's actually even really viable with. And then we have characters like Moss, who for the longest time was the only real dedicated healer. So in terms of how strong he is, you can't really put that because it's just not what he does. Another healer, Nirvana, who's more of a party buffer. Lily, who actually was, if stun immune wasn't such a big issue, Lily's a fantastic hero. Ish. Still don't think that, like, she's never going to be coming back to the Battle of Honor. Not a chance. Azrael's never got like, uh, Azrael's got awesome stats and all that, but I think in like even my really old review of heroes that aren't out yet, where I was talking about how paper heroes are probably going to be the strongest class at the end, or it looked like Nexon has a favoritism towards paper heroes, which now it looks more like they have it towards Rock. But I did mention that Azrael is probably the only character, like the three huge ones were Azrael, Angela, and Klein, because none of them were out when I did that. It was a really old review. Um, and part of like I think my original tier list. Um, but Azrael was the only character where I thought that even his awesome everything would not make up for the fact that he was melee and he just was not good enough to compete even way back when. So he's kind of basically the same. There's some cool things you could do with Azrael, but uh, they're definitely not better than anything else. Um, Raboff, uh, and his disarm is 2 turns. Not as good as Jilin or depending on the situation, Yekaterina's, but 2 turns. Like get past his 3 movement, 2 turns. So that's all you need to say. 2 turns. There's nothing anybody can do about it without an Omni set. So it's pretty sweet. He just has stupid. If they made his movement 4, I think it would change. It would make a world of difference for him. Unknown, again, more of a PvE thing. Like I used to get a lot of slack for saying, because people would often compare heroes coming out to the Pioneer server, and I said that Unknown was never going to be a major BOH player. Like he did not have the kit for it. It just wasn't there. People were all like, "Oh, counter Unknown, he's going to be so good." He's a melee hero. What's he good? Anyway, that's a rant for another time. But I just never saw him being really anything but a coup dungeon farmer, which is what I specifically raised him for because the last hero I got was Lancer Alex, and he was the first one that I wanted from the Blue Jeans. Chris is Pikachu, so she doesn't count. Carrot is amazing in the early game. Jenny is broken right now, so that counts as amazing. She's not bad without even before the Klein set. She still wasn't bad. It's just she had crazy man. Like the Klein set basically made Jenny from like good for a turn or so to completely bullshit. Moo has always been like the ideal definition of what a balanced type hero should be. She's got the all-round kit for everything: her own mana sustain, perfect stun lock, healing to the whole team, buffing crit rate to her maximum, and with the change to her passive, I think it's actually pretty awesome for how much she's actually getting um, when her allies die, making her pretty clutch in the end. Now, what I do not like about this passive is that it doesn't really do anything. If your team doesn't die, it doesn't do anything. But Moose kit's so versatile that you really don't need it to. So like Moo's always been, and her stats are good too. Like they're not outrageous, but they're good. They're a little bit low mastery, and compared to nowadays standards, attack is not that great. Defense is above average, unless you count Crud as a hero and not a joke, and HP is above average. Like she was kind of like the things that she's below average in are a little bit of crit rate, which she makes up with her first third skill, and below average in mastery. Everything else is on par or better. So she's always been like kind of like the perfect balance hero. Um, but I would even argue that she's one of the superstars for the paper class, but she's just more of a finesse type user. Like a lot of free to play top 10 teams in the past were all running Moo. Shark Fuji, for example, ran Moo in slot one. Um, and then Klein and Angela, who just Angela and Klein can take on all the rock heroes by themselves. Like I don't think there's any rock hero that could deal with Angela, and I don't think there's any rock hero that could deal with Klein, um, with the exception of Yekaterina if she can get a sleep lock on them, which is going to be really hard for her to do, considering the ranges of both. It would like it's possible, more possible on Angela, but again, what's to say you don't have any way to disable sleep like with set gear like an Omni set or something like that. Ideally, you wouldn't build Angela with anything other than the paper set, so she would have to have something uh, that would give her a buff at the beginning of the turn or something like that. My Angela can be sleep locked though, so with the exception of Yekaterina, there's nothing. There's no answer that Rock can give to either of these heroes. Scissors, on the other hand, is kind of right in the middle. Scissors has the best tank, arguably the best attacker. If you take Crut out of the game now, best attack type hero. Scissors has kind of had its moment in the spotlight and is now kind of in the in between zone where Rock has all the best heroes, but paper is so strong that Rock is almost useless, and you need the scissor heroes to fight the paper ones. Because if your papers aren't stronger than their papers, and you need scissors, or it's just not going to work. But Scissors has kind of a poor selection of heroes. I think that actually all the worst heroes in the game, with the exception of Dolores, are Scissors. I do think that Wang is one of the best. Sorry, one of the best examples of being a terrible, terrible designed hero. and he's the first Lost Island hero, so it was like a hype to get Moang, and it turns out he was absolutely trash. Sonic Boom is like the budget version of another balance type scissor hero, which is Chenny, obviously. Shark. Shark is like the buffed version of Dolores. Uh, and by buffed version, I mean they have nothing in common other than the fact that they're both steaming piles of shit. Raskria was probably, well, Raskria and Frankenstein are the. Raskria is not terrible. It's just she's not. The other area attack type heroes can equip the Klein set and become gods in battle, and Raskria kind of just can't. Like I would still put her like in the top of tier two. Like she's got awesome stats and she's got good skills and everything. It's just she's just quite not strong enough. This cleanse, sorry, it's not a cleanse. It's a resist. It's just too low of a chance. Like the thing is, it only does anything if you're going to be if you have a chance to be hit by a abnormal status effect, which means say you got three immunities. That means the only one is sleep. So you have and sleep and disarm. So you have a 14% chance when it happens that you can get rid of it. Like those are very not like this is basically nothing. It is almost nothing. This skill is I would put it on the higher end of strong, but like with all things considered, if you would pick this skill over Jenny's third skill, then you're off your freaking rocker. So the thing is, she's just it's not that she's a bad hero. It's just that she doesn't have a place. I do like how she has like some of the best hitboxes. Like I like her first hitbox. It's the same as Muzaka's. I like her second hitbox. It's the same as Carrot's second hitbox. And I like her third hitbox because it's another. It is. It's not the awesome skill, but it is a fantastic skill. I think the mana cost on this is outrageous for what it is. Um, but if you did have 50 client sets lying around, then why not? But Scissors is in the position where I think the majority of the bad heroes in the game are Scissors. Jin, another example, ton of wasted stats. Frankenstein is the worst hero in the game. Dolores beats the crap out of him. Electra, I think she's gotten some buffs recently too. Um, but again, she's not a good hero. She's not going to be seeing very much play at all. Soraka is one of the basic heroes, so I'm going to leave him out. Though he is the only one with Water Walk, so totally the most OP other than Alfred and Chris and Ian and Kai, if you count Kai too. Anyway, yeah, I think Soraka was the first person I dropped. It might have been Ian that I dropped first, but Soraka was probably the first one I dropped. Pony is actually kind of cool if you have a PvE team built around his third, because it does. I think it does like 18,000 damage by the time it's done extra, and his mana cost is relatively low. And he's got some good effects. Like he's not a bad hero anymore. It's just these changes came way too late, and the time for him to be good, like or when his kit would have been good, is like that period of time doesn't exist anymore, so he's not going to see any play. Like almost all the scissor heroes are terrible, but the good scissor heroes, Frul is just way too hard to raise. Tao is one of the best boss debuffing heroes in the game. Lena is just one of the best all-around heroes for any team you want in the game. Uh, Deb is probably everybody's first 5-star because she's just well, going back, if you started when the Noblesse Heroes came out, you probably were raising Raskri instead of Deb because Raskri is slightly better. But the thing that was nice about Deb is that her mana cost for her skills was outrageously low compared to her mana pool and her regen. So and she's got great hitboxes. Not the really overpowered ones, but the more sustainable ones. That's a good one for being able to cast your skill twice as often. And this is one of my favorite hitboxes in the game in general. Uh, Shiny needs no explanation. Though her time I do think is past. A lot of people are still using her. She is still a very strong hero. Lee's Miley, I think, is enough justification for that. I don't want to go into that. And Bearman has been probably the single most valuable hero to me in the entire game because he has just let me have absolute control over an innumerable amount of situations. But the good sister heroes, I don't think are good enough to outweigh. If you put everything on the scale, I think the bad ones would weigh them into the ground. So I think that scissors is actually the worst type. Rock is the best type, but paper is the strongest type. It's weird. Like that's the relationship that the three types have right now. I really hope that the next hero that they come up with some stupid BS is an amazing scissor type hero because I think scissor really needs an extra kick. They did have a really long time to shine. Um, that kind of got beaten down with the constant release of really overpowered rock heroes, followed by the buffing insane buffing of paper heroes to kind of give scissor heroes a place back again. Because for a while there was like it was only like a few weeks to a month, but there was like four rock teams because paper heroes just weren't quite good enough or equipped well enough yet to deal uh, with just the fact that these rock heroes were stupid outrageous. Anyway, this video has been way too long. Sorry about the extra rant and going through all the different heroes and everything like that, but sometimes these things happen when I'm allowed to sit